The biggest issue in America right now is the economy. Donald Trump ran on lowering costs, and everything that we've seen, from grocery prices to rent, to healthcare costs, everything is still going up.
Now, Donald Trump, talking of the president, has received widespread criticism after sharing a racist video which depicted the Obamas as apes in a jungle. The clip, which has now been taken down, was initially defended by the White House as an internet meme featuring President Trump as the king of the jungle, some kind of Tarzan figure, and the Democrats as characters from The Lion King. Let's discuss this with Quentin James, co-founder of the Collective PAC. It's an organisation that aims to elect black officials in the states. Quentin, hello to you.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much. I've got to admit, I couldn't believe that this really had been tweeted by the White House, even this White House. What did you think?
It's a little bit of more the same from what we've been seeing. I think for a lot of people, this is a moment to kind of wake up. But, Black people in America have been saying this is who this president is for a very long time. His first political event, he came down and talked about immigrants being, violent and rapists. And we know that's not the case of everyone who comes to this country. And so this is more the same from, unfortunately, President Trump. And I think, at the same time, it's kind of a dog whistle to his base. He's struggling right now in the polls. And so I think this is really, wasn't targeting Black people, but targeting his base to get them excited about these upcoming elections.
Yeah. I mean, you've talked about him and how African Americans have said when someone tells you who they are, believe them the first time. But he's had a number of African Americans who rallied to his banner, including the likes of, Byron Donalds, who's a congressman, Pastor Mark Burns, one of his spiritual advisors, and more latterly, Nicki Minaj, the musician. And what does it say about the fact that he still manages to persuade a coterie of very well-known African Americans? Snoop Dogg, who's currently at the Winter Olympics, went to his inauguration, or I think the ball after the inauguration. How do you explain that?
Listen, I think a lot of people, their price of their soul is not expensive. And so you take someone like a Nicki Minaj, who is technically an undocumented American, and she could be facing. Yes, undocumented, correct. Yes, she does not have a birth certificate. She's not technically a U.S. citizen. And so there are issues there around, people trading those favors for, not being prosecuted, not being deported. Her husband and her family members are facing federal charges at the moment as well. And so people are, bartering and trading their support for them staying out of trouble with the law. And that's unfortunate, but we see it a lot. And not just with Black people, we see it with lots of different people. But it's unfortunate that this president has really put things like citizenship, for sale, and people are trading in those favors to stay out of jail.
Yeah. Well, one person who was not trading favors to stay out of jail, I think he wanted to be vice president, the Republican Senator Tim Scott. Is he South Carolina, I think? He's an African American.
He is. Yeah.
And he described the post as, quotes, the most racist thing I've seen out of this White House. Now, given that on the campaign trail, he turned around to Trump and almost nuzzled into his face. He said, "It's because I love you." You remember that? What does it tell us if even Tim Scott has had enough?
Well, I want to wait and see, right? I think it's really important at this moment that we allow people to kind of, wake up, right? And realize that this has been a problem. Although many of us are like, we've been telling you, I think it's okay to let people have this moment of realization of who he is. At the same time, we want to make sure that continues, right? We have major elections in November. And so if folks aren't following through with that commitment by not supporting him, then, it's all for nothing. But I think it's important to allow people these moments to say, wow, I can't believe you did it, when you have all the evidence to say that he would. But it's okay. I think getting people to the right place is what's most important.
Yeah, you can understand why in this atmosphere with ICE and the raids and a president who feels he doesn't have any guardrails, you can understand why some people are just prepared to throw in the towel. But you've had lots of people saying they're part of the resistance and No Kings protests, lots of litigation. And then you've got elected officials like Jasmine Crockett, who's extremely well known in the States and is building up a profile here. She's a congresswoman from, I think, Texas, isn't she? And she's running for a Senate seat. Can you talk to us a bit more about how you're trying to get more people, more African Americans elected in what is now Trump's America?
This is, I think, one of the quiet moments in American politics right now is you have a lot of African Americans running for the U.S. Senate, running for, governors of many states. And so while everyone is kind of being distracted by Donald Trump, the reality is Democrats are winning right now by 20, 30 points in districts that Trump won in the last election. And so if we see that trend continue through November, you're going to see a whole new wave of new Black elected officials, members of Congress, members of the Senate, and even more Black governors. And so I think that's what's exciting for us, is why we do our work every day. But it's this moment of people waking up and saying that this is not what we voted for. This is not what he committed to. And we have the chance to, again, elect many African Americans to historic seats around the country, including Jasmine Crockett running for U.S. Senate in Texas.
And what exactly is the platform that they're standing on? Is it can't just be, we're not Trump, we're Democrats, so we're the nice guys, elect us. They're going to have to present themselves with a narrative, a very strong narrative. What is it?
Well, the biggest issue in America right now is the economy. Donald Trump ran on lowering costs, and everything that we've seen, from grocery prices to rent to healthcare costs, everything is still going up. And so that's the biggest talking point is, we want to protect Obamacare. We want to lower your grocery price. We want to lower the cost of rent. Those things really matter to everyday Americans.
What about race? Because one of the reasons why Obama got elected was he was an African American, but at the same time he didn't make, and I'm going to quote something from his book, "White America feel too white." If you understand what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. So it's a very, very delicate balance.
It is, but at the same time, I think when you have leaders who've served in Congress before, or people who may have been a lieutenant governor now running for governor, the voters in those states, in those places, they're comfortable with those folks. So they've seen them, right? Yeah. We've seen a Jasmine Crockett on CNN, just about every night for the past few years. And so I don't think race is going to be as big of an issue as the racism that we're seeing from Donald Trump and his counterparts, right? People were okay with this idea of, making sure our borders were secure, but they didn't want to see ICE, locking up elementary school kids or shooting American citizens, right? And so the race of the candidate, I don't think will be much of an issue when it comes to the issues that we've seen from this administration.
We will see, Quentin, we will see. Thank you very much indeed for being with us on Times Radio. That's Quentin James, co-founder of the Collective PAC.